And now, to introduce our 2 o'clock Interfaith lecture series here in the Hall of Philosophy, where this week we are presenting the theme, Inventing God, ? A Brief History of Religions. Our distinguished guest today is Rohinton M. Rivetna. Rohinton Rivetna is highly respected and recognized in North America and worldwide for his outstanding leadership and service for the Zoroastrian community, and in the interfaith arena as well for his efforts toward world peace and understanding. Rohinton has devoted a lifetime building infrastructure, both physical brick and mortar, as well as organizationally, to strengthen the community and perpetuate the religion of Zarathustra in North America and around the world. In 1976, he spearheaded the founding of the Zoroastrian Association of Chicago, ZAC for short, helped draft its constitution, and served as its president until 1986, and he has been one of 3 ZAC trustees since the founding of that association. Rohinton was the prime architect of FZANA, F-E-Z-A-N-A, the Federation of Zoroastrian Associations of North America, and of the Constitution of FZANA, and as founding president steered the organization through its formative years. Today, his vision of a coordinating body to facilitate the growth and prosperity of the Zoroastrian community in North America is a flourishing reality. And since the early 1990s, Rohinton has been devoted to the vision of developing a world body of Zoroastrians, indeed having already written the draft constitution for a proposed World Council of Zoroastrian Federations. So inviting Rohinton to be part of this week was very important because, as I have discovered, very few people have ever even heard of Zoroastrianism, much less know, understand, and honor it. When I began explaining to those who were asking about our season, and this week in particular, I get very excited about today's focus on Zoroastrianism, and almost everyone would say, "What's that?" So I knew that this would be an important day, and we are so very grateful that Rohinton is with us today and that you are here to appreciate him. The title of his presentation is Zoroastrianism and How It Shaped the Judeo-Christian and Abrahamic Concept of God. We are most grateful to the Thomas and Shirley Musgrave Woolaway's Fund for sponsoring today's lecture. And 10 of you will be pleased to know, or maybe 15, that Mrs. Rivetna Roshan, whom we are very happy to have with us today, has brought 10 books of one kind and 5 of another with her on Zoroastrianism that you might want to purchase for $10. And you could order one instead of buying it today, and she will send it to you. Roshan will be on the far end of this end, actually, of the Hall of Missions porch after Rohinton's lecture. We are delighted that both Roshan and Rohinton are with us today. And so now I ask you to please join me in a very enthusiastic Chautauqua welcome to Rohinton Rivetna.
Thank you, Maureen, for a very generous introduction. Appreciate that. I have to tell you that we are falling in love with Chautauqua, idyllic place with little homes and little gardens, and it's just it's a Camelot, I would say, a well-kept secret that not too many of us know about. But we are very happy to be here, and we want to thank Maureen and the Religious Department for inviting us, and our hosts, Bill and Maggie, for hosting us in this beautiful place over there on the side. When Maureen called me and asked to to come and present Zoroastrianism. We quickly looked up the website and were struck by the richness of this institution and also the natural surroundings that we saw. This is an ideal place for presenting Zarathustra's message in this natural setting. This is the altar that Zarathustra had in mind. We are, as Zarathustris, we have intense reverence for creation, so that we have reverence for the plants, the animals, the earth, the human beings, air, waters, and the fire. Those are the 7 elements that we have reverence for. And it struck me, because of these natural surroundings, that I read to you a passage, an extract from Andrew Carnegie, who visited Bombay, now Mumbai, in the last century. He is, of course, as you know, the industrialist and the philanthropist. And he happened to be in Bombay on the day that the Parsis, we are called Parsis in India, were venerating the waters. There's a particular day in the year when you venerate the waters, which is called Day Awa and Month Awa. This is what he said. It's an extract from his passage. This evening, we were surprised to see more Parsis than ever before, ladies richly clad, all wending their way towards the sea. Here on the shore of the ocean, as the sun was sinking in the sea, they congregated to perform their religious rites. Fire was there in the grandest form, the setting sun, and water in the vast expanse of the Indian Ocean. The earth was under their feet, and the air came laden with perfumes of the Arabian Sea. Surely no time or place could be more fitly chosen than this for lifting up the soul. How expressly sublime the scene appeared to me, and how insignificant seemed our cathedrals made with human hands. So he brought in the concept of fire and earth and air and the waters and all these elements that Zoroastrians revere. So I thought that'll be an interesting passage to read. I'm well aware of the history and the prestige of this platform, and my wife and I are humbled to be here and make this presentation to you. We are, as Maureen said, we are Zarathustris. We are followers of Prophet Zarathustra. The Greeks called Zarathustra Zoroaster, and hence the term Zoroastrian. So in the West, we are known as Zoroastrians. And some of you might have heard the term Zoroastrians and dispensed with it as relics of antiquity, but we are here to assure you that we are alive and well. Although small in numbers, we are here. Want to give you a flavor of Zoroastrianism and then a little bit about the connection with Judaism and Christianity. So it's a religion of responsibility. Our mission in life is to move creation forward. We are called Hamkars, co-workers of Ahura Mazda, God. We have to move creation forward to a blissful stage that we call Frashokarati. So that's our mission in life. It's our responsibility to work with Ahura Mazda as co-workers of Ahura Mazda to move creation forward. Our religion is sometimes known as the religion of the good life, so that we are enjoined to live a good life in the service of others and make this world a better place for all of us. It's also a religion of consequence, so that if you do good, you are rewarded with the reward of heaven, and if you do evil, of course, there are consequences of hell. It is a reflective faith given to free will and choice, so that you have to think with an illumined mind and come up with the answers. It's not a prescriptive faith. There are no prescriptions. So our story begins somewhere between the Caspian Sea and the Aral Sea in the Bronze Age. The exact date of Zarathustra is not known, but Zarathustra preached in a language called Avesta, and Avesta is very similar, that language is very similar to the Riga Vedas. And knowing the age of one, it's been considered that Zarathustra preached about the same time, which is 1700 BC. So it's a pretty ancient faith. And Zarathustra then, for the first time in human history, Zarathustra declared that there was one God, and he called that God Ahura Mazda. Ahura is Lord, and Mazda is wise. So it's a Lord of wisdom. And then he proceeded to lay before humankind the attributes of Ahura Mazda for humankind to emulate. And the chief among those attributes was Vahu Man. Vahu is good and Man is mind. So we are enjoined to develop a good mind. And from a good mind flows good thoughts, good words, and good deeds. And a lot of times on our altars are written the words Humata, Hukata, Huvarashta, good thoughts, good words, and good deeds. So that he placed as the prime attribute of Ahura Mazda. The second was Asha, and Asha is righteousness or truth. And for us, righteousness and truth is the natural law of order and harmony in the world. So just like there is order and harmony in the world, we are enjoined to live with order and harmony with the rest of the creation. The third attribute is Kshatriya, and Kshatriya is Ahura Mazda's divine majesty, so that Ahura Mazda pervades, he's the purveyor of the whole earth. And so we are enjoined to look at ourselves as servicing the whole world. And the fourth attribute is Almighty. It's a female attribute which enjoins us to live a life of devotion. Devotion to Ahura Mazda, God, to your country, to your community, and your family. Now, with the practice of those four attributes, we can reap the reward of Auravatat and Amaratat, which is immortality and perfection. In other words, we become one with Ahura Mazda. So that's our goal in life. That's how Zoroastrians live their lives. And this morning, Reverend Jones mentioned the 5 pillars of Islam, and then he also explained how to live our lives and represented 5 other pillars for living our lives better. And these, for us, these are the 7 pillars that Zoroastrians live with. I'll summarize this. For the first time in human history, man was introduced to the concept of choice and free will. Man must think before he can believe. Zarathustra extolled God to be the mightiest and strongest, though never to be feared. Man is to strive in this world for perfection and completeness. He did not promote the idea of renunciation, celibacy, or deprivation. His trust was for happiness, both within oneself and promoting harmony in the environment. Happiness to the one who gives happiness to others. Now, I'll just so that you get a flavor of what Avesta language is, I'll recite one of the 3 cardinal prayers that are constantly on our lips. They're very short prayers. Zoroastrians recite them all the time. So the first one is Ashem Bahu. It goes Ashem Bahu, Vahestem Asti, Usta Asti, Usta Ummai, Yadashai, Vahishtai Yashem. And it says, truth is good, truth remember, truth is the natural law of order and harmony. So truth is good, truth is best, truth is happiness. So we live by that. The second prayer is Yatha Huveryo, and that reminds us to be of service to others. And the third prayer is called Yangyatam, and these prayers are given to us by Zarathustra himself. The third prayer is Yangyatam, which enjoins us to follow in the footsteps of our illustrious forefathers. I'll talk to you a little bit about our life cycle ceremonies, birth, navjot, wedding, and death. First, when a child is born, a simple lamp is lit, so that represents the coming of the new soul in this world. Then as the child grows, between the ages of 7 and 14, the child is initiated into the faith. The child is adorned with the sudre, it's an inner garment, and kusti, which is a hollow cord that is wound 3 times around the waist. And there are significances to that. The sudra has a little pocket in the front where we are expected to symbolically put our good deeds every day. The kusti that we wear around our waist and tie 3 times around our waist is made of lamb's wool of 72 threads, 72 representing the 72 chapters of our scriptures, Yasna. And it is wound 3 times around the waist to represent Humata, Hukta, Huvarashta, good thoughts, good words, good deeds. When we tie the knot in the front, we recite the prayer Yatha Huveryo, which reminds us to be of service. And when we tie the knot in the back, we recite the prayer Ashem Bahu, which reminds us to follow the divine law. So that's the navjot, and the child takes an oath to be a good Zarathustri, and there is a prayer that the child recites, which is called Fravarane, and that Fravarane is the child accepts to be a Zarathustri in the presence of the congregation, family and friends, and the child the actual words is Nidashna Athishem Khadvathatam Ashonem Yaintinamcha Bushaintinamcha, meaning that he'll sheath the sword and be a bridge builder and be a peacemaker. So that's the Navjot ceremony. between the ages of 7 and 14. And then there's the wedding ceremony, of course. In the wedding ceremony, there are three parts: affirmation, and then there is the admonitions that the priest gives. There are litany of about 40 different admonitions, advices that the priest gives the couple, and then the benediction. And the last death ceremony, as the person dies, there's a little oil lamp placed at the head of the person, signifying the soul, the departure of the soul. And at that time, we dispose of our bodies very, very fast. Do not keep our bodies for a long time, within hours, and it's natural disposal. In olden days, the body was kept on the hilltops and was destroyed naturally, which natural disposal. As civilization grew, we started to build walls around the hilltops, and they're known as towers of silence. But the bodies are disposed of naturally. And the second day is the memorial service, and then the third day is the final day when the soul receives the judgment, when prayers are performed, and the soul receives the judgment of heaven or hell at that time. And there is an allegory of how the soul goes over a bridge, and some allegorical stories about that. There are many symbols that Zoroastrians have. Chief among those is light, light in all its manifestations, as I mentioned to you before. Like the sun and the moon, and light in any form is valuable to us. It represents the illumined mind to us. So in our temples, we have a fire burning constantly and tended constantly by a priest. So the priest there are 5 periods of the day, from sunrise to noon, noon to midday, midday to sunset, and sunset to midnight, midnight to sunrise again. So 5 periods of the day when the fire is tended, prayers are recited, and the fire is fed with sandalwood, which is aromatic and gives out a nice fragrance. Some fires have been burning for 2,000 years. The other very important symbol is the farohar. You may not be able to see it, but I'm wearing a little pin with the farohar symbol. It's a winged human figure, and that represents to us the divinity in humanity. It's a divinity. Every one of us have a farohar, a fravashi within ourselves, much like the conscience. And that kind of helps us go through life and tells us right from wrong. And also it gives us this connectedness one with the other. Every one of us have a farohar, fravashi within ourselves. So we are all connected through the divinity within us. And I talked to you about the Sudra and the Kasti already. The calendar, we have a small community, but we have 3 calendars, and there are stories about that. But primarily it's a solar calendar with 30 days in a month, 12 months, and then there are 5 extra days which are devoted to the remembrance of the fravashis of the departed. The fravashi within us does not die with the body, just like the soul does not die with the body. The fravashi soul and one other thing, bodhanga, inner wisdom, does not die with the body. So the fravashis of the departed are remembered in the last 5 days of the year. And the prayers are performed, in particular the gathas of Zarathustra. The gathas are 236 verses that Zarathustra composed, And those have come down to us intact, all these thousands of, all these years, because of our oral tradition. When a priest is ordained, the priest is required to commit to memory all the 72 chapters of the Yasna, and the Gathas are part of those 72 chapters. So the priests commit to memory, and therefore those have not been destroyed, even through the ravages of war and persecution and all those things. So those have come down to us intact. As for the ceremonies, we have many ceremonies, but chief among those are Gahambars. There are 6 Gahambars, seasonal festivals in the year, when everybody, the community, comes together as equals. We are required to donate something, such as your time, talent, or treasure, and prayers are performed, and we have a meal together. And that happens every 6 times a year. There are periods of the year when this happens. There is another ceremony that we perform on many joyous occasions, which is called Jashan. And when we perform the Jashan, the fire takes center stage. The fire is always center stage in all of our ceremonies, representing the divinity, of course. So that in the presence of the divinity, we place all the elements of creation around the fire, around the divinity, the plant life, the animal life in form of milk represents the animal kingdom, animal life, and all the elements are placed around as a constant reminder that we are reverent to the environment, reverent to creation. And then the Jashan is performed, the prayers are performed, giving us lessons for good living. And that happens on all joyous occasions. Now, as the earth goes around the sun, there are, as we know, 4 positions, and there are 2 equinoxes and 2 solstices. The natural new year of the year, new year of the earth, is, of course, March 21st, when life renews itself, at least in the northern hemisphere. And that is our new year, Nowruz, we call it. And in Central Asia, Nowruz is today celebrated by many, many different nationalities. So that's Nowruz, the spring equinox is March 21st. The next one is the solstice, the summer solstice, which just happened, and that we call Tirgan. It's connected with the Sirius, the star Sirius, which is the brightest star in the sky. The third one is the autumnal equinox, which is the Mehergan. Meher for us represents light, love, luster. And we celebrate Meher on that autumnal summer equinoxes. And the fourth one is the winter solstice, which is called Yalda, that happens on December 21st. And that has a connection with Christmas, because Meher was picked up by the Roman soldiers, by the Romans, and as a deity, and they called, Meher is also called Mithra. And you might have heard about Mithraism. So Romans became Mithraics, followers of Mithra, and all of Europe was dotted with temples to Mithra. Even today, when they dig down for some foundation, they would come up with a Mithraic temple. So the Romans celebrated the ascent of the sun in the sky at the winter solstice as light over darkness. And they would celebrate it for four days. Then later on, that was declared as Christmas in the 2nd century or so, rather the 200 AD or something like that. So that is the connection. Of course, we know that Christ was born in the spring, and there are, at the planetarium in Chicago, they have a little show explaining this phenomena. So those are the other festivals that we celebrate. History-wise, we have a long history. The recorded history begins about 550 BC, when Cyrus, you might have heard about him, Cyrus the Great, when he established the Achaemenian dynasty, Achaemenian Empire, and he was a benevolent king, and he brought in this way a tract of land from Turkey to India, and he gave his subjects freedom to worship and freedom to govern themselves. There are lots of stories about Cyrus, but one that is stuck is the cylinder Edict of Cyrus, which is also, we call it the Bill of Human Rights, first Bill of Human Rights. And it's in the form of a cylinder, a cigar-shaped cylinder about 10 inches by about 6 inches in diameter, with inscriptions on it. And that was discovered in the 1900s sometime in what is now Iraq. And that is representing freedom to peoples of the world today. It is, the original is in the British Museum, and the replica is in the United Nations. We all have little replicas of that in most of our places. So that Cyrus is known for that, and the other thing he's known for is releasing the Jews from Assyrian captivity in Babylon and giving them resources to rebuild their temples. So in the Jewish literature, he's known as the Anointed One. And the Jews own their existence. A lot of them feel that they owe their existence today on account of Cyrus. There is also a book called Cyropedia, which is written by a Greek, Xenophon. A lot of our history comes from the Greeks, Herodotus and Aristotle. Xenophon produced a book about Cyrus, and it's called Cyropedia. A lot of rulers of the world in the past have had a copy of this Cyropedia, including Thomas Jefferson. Then there is another famous or well-known figure, Darius the First. Darius the First is known for building. He constructed a road for the first time in the history of the world, the 1,500-mile road from Sardis to Susa, Sardis in Turkey to Susa in Persia. And he started a mail service. So today, the inscription on the New York post office reads, "Neither snow, nor rain, nor heat, nor gloom of night stays these couriers from the swift completion of their appointed rounds." So you'll see that on the New York post office today, and that's was Darius's motto. He's also known for the marathon that we know today as the marathon race, the Battle of Marathon, which the Persians lost. But that's where the marathon race comes from, the Battle of Marathon between the Persians and the Greeks. And Xerxes, of course, also was always at war with the Greeks, and the Battle of Salamis sealed the fate final. The Persians were always trying to conquer Greece, and after the Battle of Salamis, which was lost by the Persians, that put an end to Persian ambitions over Greece. And Darius III, in 332 BC, was defeated by Alexander, and Alexander, the Greek forces destroyed the Persian civilization. Excuse me, So that civilization came to an end abruptly, and the seat of the Persian Empire was called Persepolis, and that was destroyed. And then there was the Seleucid Empire, Seleucid dynasty, which was the Greeks, that ruled for about 80 years, and the whole empire was in disarray. Came the Parthians, they got the Greeks out and reconstructed and rebuilt the empire and reconstructed the scriptures, and Zoroastrianism was again revived at that time. The Parthians were in existence for about 400 years, and then came the Sasanians. The Sasanians ruled for about 400 years, and in 652 AD, the Arabs came from the south, and there was destruction of the Persians, and everything was transformed. Some stayed, some converted to Islam, and some of us went to India, set sail, and landed on the shores of India, where we are called as Parsis, and we have survived in India due to the generosity and the welcome of the Hindus. Our arrival in India is symbolized by, some of you might have heard the story, a pinch of sugar in the milk. Just like the sugar sweetens the pot of milk, so we are supposed to have sweetened India. And Mahatma Gandhi summed it up best when he said, this is about the Parsis in India, in numbers beneath contempt, but in charity beyond compare. So we have built hospitals, and a lot of charities have been done by Parsis in India. In fact, right close from here, Cornell has been a beneficiary of a large sum of money, $30 million, recently, to build some facility in Cornell and Harvard. Okay, so I'll talk to you a little bit about, not much time is left, a little bit about the influence of Zoroastrianism on Judaism and Christianity. The transfer of thought took place between Zoroastrians and the Jews in the post-exilic period, when Cyrus defeated the Assyrians and allowed the Jews to rebuild their temples. That's the time that Zoroastrians and the Jews came together, and the exchange of thought took place. The Old Testament is replete with references to the Persian emperors Cyrus, Darius, Xerxes, and the three Magi's. The three Magi's who heralded the infant Christ were Zoroastrian priests. To this day, frankincense and myrrh is used in our temples. We offer frankincense and myrrh. Despite the grimness of religious persecutions, massacres, and oppressions, the two peoples, Jews and Zoroastrians, affirm, cherish, and celebrate life rather than seek escape from the world. The attitude of both faiths is rooted in tolerance and diversity. The Zoroastrian influence is very evident in the Dead Sea Scrolls with reference to the Prince of Light and the Prince of Darkness. There are 5 original ideas that arose from Zarathustra's teaching, and they are belief in one supreme and loving God, the concept of existence of the soul, heaven and hell, and the judgment of the soul after death, the idea of a savior, ultimate triumph of good over evil, and the idea of the final renovation. And if you ponder a bit, what I said to you, what I gave to you, the presentation, you all know about it. I did not tell you much that you did not know. We all know to live a good life and fight evil and all these kinds of things, we all know. So that is where you have the Zoroastrian thought within the Western thought. So there's nothing new that I expressed to you. In fact, this, what's his name? Freeman, Morgan Freeman prepared a segment, prepared a series in what was the Search of God or something like that. The story of God, right? Excuse me, the story of God. He just prepared all these different religions. He went there and studied them, and then had a film prepared. And one of the segments was a Zoroastrian segment. And he said in that segment that he felt like he was the follower of Zarathustra himself. So in other words, all these things are nothing new to him. It was all there in his mind. And that's the Zoroastrian thought that we have today, known as the Western thought. So our numbers are rather small, 125,000 in the whole world by the last count. But we take comfort in the fact that we have all these thought, that we have the thought process, the Western thought is Zoroastrian thought, and that also some of it has come into the US Constitution as well. Before I end, I'd like to say just a little bit about interfaith work that I do. And interfaith work, the model of the interfaith work comes to us from the Parliament in 1893, 125 years ago or so. And that model was to create understanding between each other so that we have respect between each other, and out of respect grows peace in the world. So that has been the model, and that is the model that we are following. We hailed the centennial of the Parliament in 1993 in Chicago. The 1893 Parliament was also held in Chicago as an adjunct of the World's Fair. And we have been following that model, but in my opinion, that model has to be tweaked. And my sense is that we have to look within ourselves. We have to do more of intra-faith work. We have to look at ourselves and see within ourselves what it is that we do that is offensive to others, and how we can improve ourselves within ourselves. And the interfaith people, the people who gather as interfaith, they can guide and help how we can ask those questions, and those are very difficult questions to ask, what we should do to be in harmony with each other. So that little diversion, little transformation we need to make interfaith intrafaith, so that we are looking within ourselves and finding ways to be in harmony with each other. And we talked about the 2 books. Those 2 books are available, and that is all I have to say. I thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
Rohinton, you are not just a scholar, but you are a practitioner of not just Zoroastrianism, but of what we all gather here to learn and to practice ourselves, and that is interfaith harmony, understanding, and respect. And Rohinton didn't mention that he has served for many years as vice chair of the Council in the Parliament of World Religions. So he really practices what he has come here to share with us today. We are so grateful, and I think there will be those among us who would have a question to pose to Rohinton, and I would invite you to come to either microphone, and on this chilly day, we will share the warmth of each other in these questions.
This is a slightly lengthy one, but you describe Zoroastrianism as a non-prescriptive faith, but you are also called to move creation forwards towards a better world and to live a good life. Now, my question is this: in the context of a continually maturing set of sciences of the mind, body, and the earth, we can now, or increasingly, we can give scientific answers to what were once considered moral questions. For example, we now know that spanking a child as a form of punishment is not conducive to healthy emotional growth. Does this now make it your religious duty to make certain prescriptions in violation of the non-prescriptive sort of idea, such as in this example, I guess it would be do not spank children, in the interest of moving creation forwards? Or do you hold back those prescriptions in the interest of remaining non-prescriptive and non-judgmental, and risk allowing the world's forward motion to be arrested for a time?
I'm not sure I grasped the question, but I can tell you that we as Zoroastrians have always lived with the precept that we have to ponder and come up with answers to all the questions that we face. And the way we do that is we look at a particular question and consider it for what it does to creation. Our injunction is to move creation forward, to help creation. And whatever we do must be responsive to that particular notion of moving creation, helping creation, and moving creation forward. That's all I can say.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I wanted to thank you. It was just a beautiful presentation, and it's clear it's just a very beautiful and pure way of thinking about the world that you bring. And so it got me to wondering, you look at the complications of so many of the other faiths when it comes to bringing the young up and having them follow in the faith, see it as the way to grow and to be useful human beings, And I think all the faiths can say there's some difficulty in getting the younger generation to see it the way the older generation saw it. I'm wondering whether you're experiencing that as well. Is there a conversation in your community about how your young, scientifically, perhaps more enlightened, etc., young look at the world, and are they coming along with you, or are they pushing? Where are the points of difficulty?
Yes, we have that difficulty. We have difficulty with our youth to keep up the faith and be a good Zoroastrian and be part of the community and work with the community. My sense is that today the youth don't feel the need to go to the religious establishments. Education, for instance, the education that we give to our children is, in my view, vocational education. We do not educate our children the way education is meant to be, to live a good life, to become a responsible citizen of the world. That is education, and that is what we lack in our education, in our systems, school systems. Children are not going to churches either, or in the religious institutions. They have other priorities. They have soccer. I have grandchildren, and their priorities are different. They have soccer, and they have this and that. Going to our temple is the last priority to them. So I don't know what we are going to do, but our education system, I think, has failed us. And we got to do something to bring this education. We want to educate our children in the way that education was meant to be. And I share your concern about that, and that's exactly what we are facing too. But what happens is when our children have their own children, they seem to be coming back. so at least I think that is a common phenomena that is happening. And at least there's some hope that they will continue and keep the faith going. Thank you.
Hi, could you briefly speak to the condition of the Zoroastrians in Iran and Yads and how things are going there?
Yeah. Well, they have survived all these years, and they have an inborn mechanism to survive. The way they do it is they play a very low key, and they do not openly practice the faith. They keep everything within themselves, and that's the way we are too. We keep our identity within ourselves, and we kind of low-key approach. But lately, at least there has been some recognition, such as there is Zoroastrian member and the Jewish member. There's a Jewish community, Zoroastrian community, Christian community. They each have a member representing the community in the majlis. So at least that's some consolation. And seems like there is a lot of affinity towards Zoroastrians. If you go to Iran, and they have a respect, inner respect for Zoroastrians, for their honesty and charity and this and that, but that's all good and proper. The interesting phenomena that is happening is that the younger people feel like they want to go back to their roots, and there, of course, it's not proper thing to do, but we kind of see that around. So at the time of the Nowruz festival at Cyrus's tomb, there will be thousands and thousands of people that will gather. So those kinds of things are happening, and there's some sense of their original identity being valued in Persia today, in Iran.
I have 3 questions. When I was studying ancient thought, I think I somewhat confused Zoroastrianism with Manichaeism, but I hear from you a very distinct difference. So one question is, did Zoroastrianism have a positive impact on Manichaeism to bring about some alteration? The second question is the role of the feminine in Zoroastrianism, and a very simple question, besides the seasonal festivals and the life cycle festivals, is there something like a weekly service of worship?
Yeah, to answer your last question first, we do not congregate to worship. Our worship, individual worship. We each worship every day. We are enjoined to worship every day. And when people lived around the temples, I mentioned to you that there are 5 periods of the day, and the priest tends the fire. When he tends the fire, he rings the bell. Rings the bell 9 times, 3 times on the words Dushmat Dujukta Dujuvarashta, meaning perish bad thoughts, perish bad words, and perish bad deeds. He rings the bell, signifying for the congregation to pause from what they're doing and think of the divine for a moment. So it's individual worship. We worship individually. We do not congregate to worship. We see the value in congregating, and now and then you'll see some of our congregations coming together and worshiping together. But that's not to say that the ceremonies, we come together for the ceremonies. There are, as I said, 6 gambars, 4 seasonal festivals, all those kinds of things. We come together. So in a year, we might be coming together maybe about 30, 40 different times and worshiping together in some form. What was the other question? Manichaeism.
The role of, oh yes, and then the role of the feminine.
Feminist, yeah. There is complete equality between the sexes. There is no distinction between male and female. Complete equality. If there is, I think this is the religion where there is complete equality. However, the priesthood so far has been only for the males. But recently, the recognition has taken place that the females are just as important and just as worthy to be the priests. So that's commenced already. But there is complete equality. In fact, the females are more equal than men, certainly. Because they, of course, they are the ones who raise the families.
Yes. And Manichaeism?
Sorry?
Manichaeism?
Oh, Manichaeism, I don't know too much about it, but Mazdakism and Manichaeism, and they are offshoots of Zoroastrianism, but of course they did not last too long. I think St. Francis was a Manichaeist or something like that.
St. Augustine.
St. Augustine.
St. Augustine, 4th century.
So they're offshoots of Zoroastrianism. They did not last much. Mazdakism also was another offshoot, and they did not last a long time. They all perished, just faded away.
Thank you.
So I don't know too much about
That's okay.
those.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for your presentation. Being, as you suggested, one of the first communities, traditions to express one God, how has that expression or description or characteristics of God evolved? In other words, we have seen the anthropological aspects of God initially proclaimed by some traditions. And now we seem to be moving more toward a spirituality concept. And I'm curious as to whether or not or how that has, if it has, evolved in your community.
Well, evolved, I gave you the 6 attributes, the 7 attributes actually of Ahura Mazda. And those are the principles that we follow, the attributes of Ahura Mazda, which is the first being the good mind, the Asha, Shatra, Armaiti, Auravatat, and the Miratat. So those are the descriptions of God. Now, you asked the question whether it was, it's a divine being. And Ahura Mazda, perhaps you are talking about the 2 spirits, Angra Mainyu and Spenta Mainyu. There is Spenta Mainyu, which is the spirit that is the good spirit, and the Angra Mainyu is the evil spirit. So there are sometimes there is confusion, as Zoroastrianism is a dualistic faith, and that's on account of Angra Mainyu and Spenta Mainyu. Spenta Mainyu is the good spirit, Angra Mainyu is the evil spirit. It's our injunction, our duty to eradicate evil and promote Spenta Mainyu. Now, Spenta Mainyu and Angra Mainyu, the question is whether it's cosmic or whether it's of the mind. And Zoroastrians believe that it's of the mind, that the Spenta Mainyu is the good mind and Angra Mainyu is the evil mind. So one can develop a good mind or an evil mind. It's up to an individual to do so. And we kind of encourage people to develop a good mind out of which flows good thoughts, good words, and good deeds. So Ahura Mazda is the divine force, and the spirit of Spenta Mainyu is Ahura Mazda, in fact, and we need to promote that. And we do not consider God as, of course, in any physical sense. It's just a divine being.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. That's all I can tell you, explanation-wise.
Thank you.
This way.
Good afternoon. A curious question. It sounded like you answered part of it, but in terms of theodicy, an understanding of, fate, things happening, whether they be good or bad, how does one come to grips with, evil?
How does one come to grips with evil? By shunning evil and actively eradicating evil from this world. So we are enjoined to actively, not just passively shun evil, but actively force evil out. So it's our duty to, when we see evil, not to stand by, but to actively eradicate evil.
Thank you.
One final question.
Hi, thank you. Since your religion had such a foothold in Iran, how did Islam become the predominant religion? Why did it flourish, do you think? Since you were already there all these years, what caused Islam to flourish so much more?
Well, it was, as I said, the Arabs came from the south, and they were forceful, and when they came, the Sasanian Empire was in a state of kind of disarray right at that moment. They had so many, 4 or 5 different kings, emperors within a space of 10 years. So the country was in a state of disarray, and they were not united, and therefore they were defeated, and it was Islam was the predominant faith of the conquerors, the Arabs. And history book tells us that it was the sword of the Quran, so many of the Zoroastrians converted to Islam. And till the 18th century, the Zoroastrians were required to pay a tax, a jizya tax. And those are crippling taxes that they were required to pay. So in the 1850s, we sent an emissary to the Shah of Iran, and that emissary was able to abolish the jizya tax, and then since that time, the Zoroastrians have done quite well in Iran too, and they're prospered in Iran, in the sense that they're doing good and they're actively engaged in commerce and everything else. So that's the way it has been. That's been our history. But in India, we have prospered and we have done well. And lately, Zoroastrianism, this whole area in Central Asia was all Zoroastrian at one time. All of a sudden, the Kurdish people have declared that they want to go back to their roots and become Zoroastrians. So the Kurds have set up temples and this and that, and they're saying that there are several thousand Kurds that want to go back to their own faith, original faith. And they're doing that on their own. In Tajikistan, the same phenomena is occurring. So in a lot of areas in Central Asia, they themselves recognize that they want to go back to their own roots, and they're doing that. But the practice that they have, the practice that they follow, is very different from what we have. And so these things ebb and rise and ebb, and all those things keep happening in the history of the world, and part of history. Thank you.